Hey there, it's Misty. Welcome back to another card video. Today I'll be sharing with you my projects I made for this week's Simon Says Stamp Wednesday challenge. Our theme is Anything Goes, and we are featuring products from Crafter's Companion. And I'm using this congratulations die that has a shadow die or outline die included. And I wasn't sure if I was going to make a shaker card or if I wanted to just have a window card. I was originally going to do a shaker card because these word dies with outlines are perfect for shaker cards. But I really wanted to just keep it simple. I was looking forward to playing with some embossing powders that I recently purchased. And so I wanted to keep the rest of the cards simple. I went ahead and cut the outline right in my card base there. And then I also, that's 110 pound Nina Solar White cardstock, and I've also used the same cardstock to cut out the congratulations part here. I knew I was going to be heat embossing this probably twice, so I wanted to use a little bit thicker paper just so it would stand up nicer. I don't know if there's an easier way to do this, but I just stuck it in my embossing ink and made a mess and then poured the embossing powder over. So I'll tell you now, these embossing powders are beautiful and they're majestic, but they are messy. And so you're going to see me wiping off my card, my desk, my paper. I'm going to be wiping things throughout this whole video. And I bet you if you turn this into a drinking game of how many times I wipe off my surfaces, you would be drunk by the time this video was over because it got everywhere. It was everywhere. I tried to eliminate that by heating it from the bottom or the backside just to melt it a little bit before I took my heat tool to the actual embossing powder on the top there, on the front. But that didn't really help. I mean, it did a little bit, but it was flying everywhere. But as messy as these are, they are totally worth it. They're absolutely beautiful embossing powders. So I heat embossed it once with this Black Magic embossing powder, but I already knew I was going to end up doing this twice because I wanted it to, be fully covered. When you hold it with the tweezers, there's always a spot that didn't get embossing powder or it didn't get heat set right, and so it always looks kind of funky. So I'll show you what I do for those areas too. So here's the second bout, and I tried to keep this in here, and I think I zoom in here in a second or hold it up closer because it's so cool. It's like watching a disease. It looks so weird at first, and then you watch it melt, and it really is mesmerizing. I could watch this all day. And it was cool to see the colors change. So, okay, I'll get to that further in the video, but just watching it melt and watching the colors shift and watch them move was really cool. I seriously could sit here and do this all day. Now, since it's kind of curled, I'm just going to put it under a book that I have there. And this is what I'm getting at. So I cut these circles out with the nesting circles by Simon Says Stamp. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just going to dip them in my clear ink. And then I'll pour the embossing powder over them. I'm sure there's a different way to do this, but that's the only way that came to mind. And I'm going to pour it over all three and then heat set them instead of having to keep moving everything 3 times. I'm just going to do them all at once. See, this is when it's handy to have 3 of those EK Success tweezers because I had one for each circle. Look how cool it looks. I love it. But see, that one was mostly the gold and silver, so it's going to be all metallic, which I think you'll see here in a second. And then when I put the second layer on, it completely changed the look. So first I'm going to hit it from the back. And then I'm going to heat it from the front and try to eliminate the powder flying everywhere. And it does help. Don't get me wrong. See, you can see where my tweezers were. So second time around, I'm just going to make sure I cover that area. And then you can't even tell. And I wasn't really liking that there was no black, really. It was all the gold and silver, so it was very metallic-y. And so it was exciting to see all of them change. As soon as I put my second coat on, it completely changed the look of them, which I thought was really cool. Yeah, see, this is, I wanted more of that black showing. And my middle size one is mostly black and just speckles of the gold and silver, and I love it that way. So see, even the second time, I have to hold it somewhere, and so my tweezers, left a little bit mark, and all I did was just, while it was still hot, I put a little couple pebbles of embossing powder and heat set it, and it just melts and molds to that area that I needed it to cover. It's really cool. It almost looked like it was going to drip off, especially with the congratulations word. It looked like it was going to drip off of it at some points, but it didn't. It was like when you melt wax. It reminded me of that. Yeah, so embossing powder everywhere. And I forgot to say this at the beginning of the video, but I'm going to do a little giveaway. I got this little tool thanks to Jennifer McGuire. It's a little electric eraser, and I was trying it on the embossing powder. For the embossing powder, I don't know why, it didn't just wipe off. It kind of stuck to it and left a mark on my white cardstock that I didn't like, so that little tool helped. But I decided to purchase 2 of them, so I'm going to ship one to one lucky viewer. I haven't decided what I'm going to do for the giveaway yet, so at some point I'll tell you what I come up with, what you need to do to enter my giveaway for that handy little eraser. See what I did there? I said I will announce at some point what you need to do. That way you have to watch the video to find out. Sneaky, sneaky. That little eraser is pretty cool, though. It works pretty good. So I used it for embossing powder, but in Jennifer's video, she was saying it's good for ink smudges. If you get ink smudges on your card front, then just use the little spinning eraser and it removes the smudge. Haven't tested that one yet. Now I'm creating another layer to go on the inside of my card so that when you open it, you can't see where I glued the acetate. I'm just using 80-pound cardstock for the inside, and I trimmed it down a little bit so it's not quite 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. But I think I took 1/8 of an inch off. And I'm just lining it up with the opening I already have, and I'm going to use that outline die and cut it out again. That way when I glue my acetate in place, then I can put on that second layer and you won't see all of this glue. And the glue on the actual congratulations die, it's the same glue I'm using. It's the multimedia matte glue, and you can't see it at all. Even though you can see the back side of the die, it dries clear and you can't see it. I had a little color in my glue, and I just didn't want you to be able to see any of that, so this worked perfectly. And I used the 80-pound cardstock just so it was a little bit thinner. I wanted to make sure it would close properly. I mean, you can even use, 65-pound cardstock, or any of the less expensive cardstock you can get from, I think, like Target and Walmart and stuff. I just used the 80-pound because I wanted the color to match perfectly with the 110-pound. Other cardstocks, sometimes the color is a little bit different. And with both of these being Nina, I know that the color is exactly the same. So I chose to go with the 80-pound instead of my less expensive GP cardstock. And I am not impressed with this sponge glue at all. Maybe I did something wrong. So if you guys know of any tricks or can help me out on this, I would appreciate it, because it did not work at all for me. And I had, it says to push on the lid and get the glue to the top of the sponge. I even took my fingers and pushed all over the top of it. And so in the glue, I could see the glue. It was seeping up through the sponge, but it did not stick at all. I even tried it a couple times and it didn't work for me at all. So I was not impressed with it, but maybe I was doing something wrong. So please let me know if you know of any tricks, or if you saw that I did something that I shouldn't have done. So I just went to my trusty glue syringe there. That never fails me. And I'm gonna glue on my little tittle here. Surprisingly, I didn't lose it in all my wiping. Do you guys see what I mean about all the wiping though? If you turn it into a drinking game, you'd probably be quite inebriated by now. But I just couldn't seem to get the powder off of my everything. It was like working with glitter. And I don't want you guys to be discouraged from trying these embossing powders. I love them and I will definitely use them again and again and again, but just be prepared for embossing powder flying there too. If there's any tricks tricks or tips you know of that would eliminate that, let me know, because the only one I know is to hit it from the backside first. I know you do that with embossing powders that have glitter in them. If you hit them from the back first, it makes the powder not fly as much, or the glitter fly off as much. So the two smaller circles, I wanted to pop them up with these thin black foam squares. And then I loved the silver paper. See my second part of my sentiment there. I use the sentiment labels dies by Simon Says Stamp for every sentiment now. I love those things. And I use the little banner parts that come with it. I loved the silver cardstock that you see there because it was gold and silver embossing powder, but I just didn't like the way it looked. So I'm just going to make my own gold banner. So you can either just cut a 1/4 inch strip of cardstock, or I just use the sentiment label again and cut out another strip there. And then heat embossed it with the gold embossing powder. The sentiment labels, I think this is the smallest one. It's a 1/4 inch, and it's really, really handy because cutting a 1/4 inch with a paper trimmer is not always easy. I found the easiest paper trimmer to use to cut thin strips like this is the Fiskars wire paper trimmer, I think is what it's called. But even that shifted sometimes. Sometimes it's hard to cut thin strips like this. So these sentiment labels by Simon Says Stamp was just a game changer for me. I mean, I don't even mess around with that wire paper trimmer anymore. That's the only reason why I held on to that one, is because it was the easiest way to cut these thin sentiment strips like this. These are one of my must-have dies, I would have to say. So when I cut the banner end, it dented that embossing powder a little bit. So I just did it again. I just did a second layer of embossing powder. And then to finish this card off, I'm going to add some Ebony Black Nouveau drops. And I wasn't completely satisfied with this card, so that's one of the reasons why I made another one. And I had another embossing powder that I really wanted to play with after having so much fun with this one. But I have a hard time with clean and simple cards, and not that I don't think this is a clean and simple card, but I admire people that can use white space to their advantage. And for me, for some reason, I try to fill that white space. So I just wasn't completely satisfied with that card. So I'm going to go ahead and make another one. And I really wanted to use this other die here. This is by Memory Box, and I can thank Sharon from Uniquely K Designs on Instagram for enabling me to purchase this die and the other embossing powder, the Black Magic one. But look how cool this is. So I hit it from the back, just so, and it's still flying everywhere, you can see. And then it just looks so cool melting. I loved it. Reminds me of, like, I don't know, watching a lava lamp or something. But anyway, so Sharon made a beautiful card using this die and the Black Magic embossing powder. And I just knew I had to have both of those products. I loved this die. I love that embossing powder. So thanks, Sharon, for enabling me. I'll put a link to her Instagram account in my video description. Hopefully that's okay. But you really should check out her Instagram account because she makes beautiful cards. And the die that I just had to have is from Memory Box. It's called Wave Ribbon Collage. And I thought it was such a cool die, so I just had to have it. But I'm using score tape on the back, so when I put those heat embossed pieces in, I know they're going to stay put. And the paper I'm using is by Tonic Studios. It's ONYX Black Pearlescent Cardstock, and it's a really cool color. It's like almost like a slate gray or a dark gray, and it's got a really cool, pretty pearlescent look to it. But it's not shiny, it's like a matte. How did you like that description of it? Oh, the pearlescent paper has a pearlescent look to it. And it looks slate gray, but it says it's ONYX black. Maybe it is black, but it looks like a really dark gray to me. But it looked really cool with these heat embossed pieces. And the heat embossed pieces have like texture to them. They're not, it didn't melt flat, so it's just, I don't know. I'm in love with these embossing powders. I really hope this company, Wow Embossing, is it just Wow? Is it just called Wow? Well, let me just look at one of the bottles here. Wow. Yes, it says Wow Embossing Powder. I hope they make more embossing powders like this, because they have a bunch of really cool embossing powders, but I loved these ones with these thicker chunks to them that melt. Very cool. And my head is always in the way. And I look lovely when I make cards. Let me tell you, my hair's, as you can see, it's up on the top of my head, and it's quite haggard, and it keeps getting in my way. Luckily, nobody sees me when I'm crafting. Maybe that's why I never do my face. It's always just my hands. I can't be bothered with showering and putting on makeup and all those time-consuming things. I got crafting to do. Speaking of crafting, all right. I cut the outline out of vellum, and I cut the congratulations out of that other silver paper I was trying to use in the previous card. It's Silver Silk by Tonic. And I decided I wanted to pop it up, so I cut the word part, the congratulations, out of black craft foam. And I'm going to put it on the back of the vellum, so it pops up both layers. And that way I don't have to be so precise trying to get it behind just the first layer. I'm still pretty dang precise about it, but I like it with both layers popped up. Okay, so for my giveaway, I decided just leave me a comment is all you got to do. And I'll pick a random winner. And if you feel like telling me who your favorite stamp companies are, feel free to do that. I would love to hear who you guys like to purchase stamps from. And I always love to learn about new companies as well. I would say my favorite, definitely, is Simon Says Stamp is my number one. I love Lawn Fawn, Mama Elephant. I just don't use Mama Elephant very often. I don't have as much time to craft as I wish I did, but I'm also enjoying raising a child, so when he is grown and out of the house, I know I'll have lots more time for crafting. But yes, I love Mama Elephant, love Hello Bluebird, Purple Onion Designs are another favorite. Who else? Tim Holtz. I know I'm going to think of several more when I'm done with this, but that's just to name a few. So leave me a comment. Feel free to let me know who your favorite stamp companies are, and I will pick one randomly selected winner to win this cool Couture Creations. What is it called? Creative Detailer is what it's called. But it's this little spinny eraser that's good for erasing smudges on your cards. And this is just a small way to thank you guys for watching my videos, especially these longer ones that end up being 20 minutes long. Speed it up, put it on, 1.5 speed if you have to. But I just appreciate you guys watching them, and leaving me comments too. That helps my analytics on YouTube. But yeah, so thank you guys so much. I really appreciate you. And then I have one more question I need to ask you guys, because you guys always give me suggestions and stuff, and I love it. But I'm looking for a stitched rectangle that is, not, I don't want an A2 size. I already have that with Lawn Fawn, and I have the 4 by 5 1/4. I'm looking for in between. So I'm looking for a 4 1/8 by 5 3/8 stitched rectangle. So in between the A2 size and, you know, you cut your card fronts down to 4 by 5 1/4, in between those two sizes. So I want a really thin border. If I'm doing an A2 size card, I want to have a really thin border. So 4 1/8 by 5 3/8. If anybody has a stitched rectangle that measures that, please let me know. Please, thank you. Okay, so this one was pretty basic. You've seen what I've done. The other sentiment, the second part of the sentiment, is one of those really cool printed sentiments that you can get from Simon Says Stamp. It's a Sentiment Strips 2, and it has several different sentiments on there, and I just cut the one I wanted. So I think this congratulations die and these wow embossing powders really made both of these cards. I think they were both really fun to play with. So that's it for me this week. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it. As always, all of the supplies that I used will be listed and linked in the video description below. And if it won't fit there, it'll be over on my blog because YouTube only allows so many characters down there. So if you can't find something listed there, jump over to my blog and it'll be listed over there. So if you like my videos, please consider subscribing to my channel. A lot of my views are coming from unsubscribed viewers. So if you haven't subscribed, please do so. And I will see you next week. Thanks. Bye.